Let's get to, let me try and find a node to put this on first. And we'll get the Tockley's question. There we go, perfect. So Tockley's got issues with the V'ger hostels. And at 69, you are in one of the unfortunate level groups. Because at 69, there's a drastic power jump. And we were looking about this the other night. And for those of you who might have missed that part of the stream, we're going to go in here to stfc.space. Spice. Go look at some hostels. And we're going to look at the V'ger, not the fighters. Well, we're going to say Gorn. You know, I haven't tried the Eviscerator on these things, right? I don't know if it would make a difference. I can't imagine it would, but if it can even reach. Hurok, what are they called? What are the Gorn ones called? Those are the Hurok. Are only half of them in stfc.space? Yeah, they only put half of them in stfc.space. Awesome. Ah, fantastic. Only the fighters and the Hurok are actually in stfc.space. They aren't Gorn. Well, yeah, I'm sure that would be the... Yeah. All right, so we'll look at our V'ger hostels. We'll just start here for now. Aloha, Dr. Iron Chef. Good to see you. So, the scaling should be pretty similar. So if we look at the 68... Oops, hang on a second. Let's do it this way. Open in split view. Hey, that's what I was looking for. And then we can do the 69 one right here. So 68 on the right, 69 is on the left. They have the same firing pattern, of course. And they're only one system apart, and all the stats and things like that listed here. But look at the power jump. 243 billion to 414. Like 1.5 times harder. Look at the DPR. You're going from a billion to 1.8 billion. That's a huge jump. All the piercing stats basically, you know, this is almost double. These are basically double. You know, the armor and shield deflection and dodge numbers, drastic, huge jump level to level. 68 to 69 is one of the biggest jumps in the level curve. And there's the other big number too. Shield health and hull health. You're going from 230 and 250 to 400 and 425. Those are huge, huge. Those are huge, huge jumps in the power curve. And 69 is just at an unfortunate level because they expect you, oh, you're such a high level, you should be able to beat higher targets. Except you haven't gotten a new ship since 66. So unless you've like maxed that out, which nobody does, you know, it's either a tier 9 rare or it's a tier 15 cube that you're working with. And it's not until you get to 70. Like I said, these are the 68s here. If we go back for a second, and we go to our hostels, if we just go look at the level 70 here, well, there you go again, because it just doubled one more time, because now they expect you to have the epic. And this is one of those things where when you first get to level 70, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm anxious to get through all the buildings and get there, but because I know that there's that rare wall afterwards that I'm stuck on, I almost don't want to get to 70. Like I want to like build it and get it cooking, but I don't want to speed it up. Because until I'm got the materials to do the other 3 buildings and the rep and blueprint uh, blueprints ready to start building that epic ship and actually have any materials left over to upgrade it, like going to 70 is just going to make my dailies harder to do. It's just going to make these V'ger things that much more difficult. And that's almost giving me pause about like, hey, maybe I want to just, I'll get there. I'll be like, I could go to 70 anytime I want. The building is cooking. I could just speed it up. And I'll consider the level group done. But I don't think I'm going to take care of that. Because, yeah, that's another big jump in the power curve. 54 to 55, beat your fighters. Gotcha. Well, the fighters are what you're summoning, right? With the Excelsior. So that's probably just a, tier up your ship solution, which obviously should be done. Yeah. Duder, good to see you. You have the same thoughts. Bull, 5 stream streak. Good to see you. Welcome on in. Hey, Jakers. Yeah, 69 is a bit of a challenge. 70 is a bit more of a pain in the ass, for sure. As far as crewing goes, obviously we've seen a number of crews, and maybe now's a good time to kind of go over them again. They all revolve around the same clump of officers. So, as far as captains go, Anarax is one of the captains being thrown around and being used. Janeway is the other. Chang is the third. And Chang's not for his captain's ability. It's just because there's nobody else. Like, if you're using him, it's probably Chang, Sesker, Suda as the crew. And if we go look at below deck abilities, a lot of people, that's what they're using. They're using Suitor and Seska on the side because they need the shield restoration and they need the hull restoration in order to take care of these things. And then just for, extra help and giggles there, they're also putting Pick-Hugh below deck, right? Because you need as much hull repair as you can possibly get from these things. Having these officers high level and maxed makes your life easier. All 4 of them. And for a lot of us, we're not quite there yet. If your Anorak, the bigger your Anarax is, realistically, the more Apex barrier you're getting per round. And that's cumulative, and that's going to stack. And that's very helpful. It's Suitor, it's more hull repair that you're getting from him. 24% in the previous round. And then if you throw in Pick-Hugh below deck as well, where he's giving you, mine's tier 4, I'm getting 20%. So basically I'm restoring 44% of the hull damage every round. If I can get him to tier 5, that's 15 more percent. It's going to make this fight a lot easier. This is not an easy person to upgrade. And then even once you do get all the shards, you're still stuck behind having quite a bit of the Epic X board credits too. So, but getting these officers to that next tier has a drastic impact on not just this loop, but the G7 loop as well. So if you're anywhere near G7 is on your horizon, you can kind of see it and like, what's that over there? Is that G7? Yeah, I think I want to get to that real soon. Like, those are the 4 officers that you're focusing on the most. These 3 and him. Chang is also another one that we mentioned. Depending on what ship you are using, Chang can be very beneficial. Because this is if the ship deals a critical hit to the opponent while they have hull breach, he's got a 50% chance to delay its weapon attack by a round. If you are using a ship with a bad firing pattern, you do not want to use Chang. Examples of bad firing patterns? Well, let's go take a look at stfc.space, shall we? And go look at some of those, what are we talking about? G6 epics? What do we got? G6 epics, bad firing patterns. What's the firing pattern? It's at the top, isn't it? Nope. Make it too easy. We put the firing patterns at the top. That's all anybody cares about. They are for the hostiles, but for your ship. This is the Enterprise. 2, 3, 4, 5 weapons. only one of which fires in the first round, and then two in the second round, and then two in the third round, and two in. Like, this is a god awful, convoluted firing patterns. This would not make sense to use Chang because he's got a very slim chance of actually working. That's the Enterprise. Let's go look at the Scimitar. That's the battleship. What's the firing pattern on this thing? Oh, that's just as bad. It's the same firing pattern. 1, 2, 2. Do they have the same firing pattern? I haven't really looked at these, to be honest, but they all look like garbage. And the Crenshaw. Yep, it's the same garbage, basically. If you're using an Epic, Chang is not for you. I'll tell you what ship you would like to use Chang on, though. That's the Borg Cube. Because the firing pattern on the Borg Cube is multiple weapons firing multiple times every single round. You're basically going 12-6, alternating. Putting Chang on your Borg Cube with Seska and Suitor is going to be hugely different than using a G6 Epic. So, or even if we go down a notch here, because we're stuck in this group here, right? If we go back and we were using a G6 Rare, you know, what are the firing patterns on the Velox? That one's actually not bad. You're firing 4 shots consistently every round, and then every couple extra rounds you get the torpedo in there too. An extra torpedo. So to get 4 shots per round, Chang would work okay on the Velox. I don't know what the other ones are. Titan? What's your firing pattern look like? This one's not quite as good. You've got 3, 4, 3, 2. And then that kind of starts to repeat a little bit, but yeah. So Titan not as good as Velox and Koskari here. Well, 6 up front is great. This round of 0 in round 2, though, that's kind of just a bit of a waste, right? Because if you delay their weapons and then you don't fire any back, it's basically just a nothing. That's a terrible round, right? You delay their weapon shots and then you don't have any of your own. And like, you guys just sit there staring at each other. Like, this was fun. You tired? You need a break? You want to grab some water? Okay, yeah, great. Let's do that. And then 4, 2, 4, and then another 0, and then another 0. This is terrible. So I wouldn't even consider using Chang on 2 of those ships. The Velox is the only one I would think would make sense with him. And it gets worse too, you know. Maybe your specialty ships might have better firing patterns if you're talking about a GS or a Relativity or something, if that's what you're having to rely on. But those have to be very high tier. You have to be pretty much at the end of upgrading them or have them maxed to be able to substitute those in here. And the other officer we were talking about is Janeway as captain. Because with her, you're diverting some damage into the shields. And then Seska's restoring your shield health, so you get a bit of a bridge there. You also get her below deck ability, adding isolated cascade damage, depending on what tier you've gotten her to. And she's a little harder to tier up as well. She's just expensive. If we're talking about sourcing for these officers, Augment Store is your friend. You know, to cash in these bundles up here, your uncommon, common, rare, and epic. Janeway's in this one in the rare box. Then the epic box here does have Anorak shards, as well as some Suitor shards in here as well, if you're still working on him. But you're also getting these choice tokens. And that's what the helpful part is, because then you come down here and Suitor is available here in the choice tokens along with Anorax and Janeway. So you can single them out a little bit more and focus on them. And then Seska is in the DTI store over here, and thankfully now she's got a slider. Yay, quality of life. She's got a slider. Now, again, the thing with her, of upgrading her and getting her up, when there are certain tiers, you alternate when you're upgrading your relativity. When you tier it up, you do get additional shards for her as like a tier up gift. It alternates between a gift of her and the gift of these strand of Krenim hair. So bear in mind, if you're about to tier up your relativity, don't spend a bunch of currency maxing out or upgrading Seska, because you might get 40 extra shards as a gift. But thankfully, the tax is gone on her now, and you can spend a slider up to 50 shards per pull. There is not a cost efficiency reduction for that Year of Hell group yet, so you're kind of, it is what it is when you're working with them. And then, of course, the last place you can find all these people is in your Officer Depot tokens. You've got Anorax right here, along with Suitor. No Seska in that bundle. And then, if you're still working on Janeway, she's over here as well. Pick Hugh is also in this group. If you're trying to pick up shards for him, he's also available here, because his only real sourcing is through the NX01 store. You can claim a couple shards of him per day, and then eventually you're going to need a whole, I think it's 25 or 30,000 export credits to what his final tier is. Maybe it's even higher than that. Let's look that up real fast. Make sure I give everybody accurate information. Hugh. Pick Hugh. Takes 35,000. 35,000, so I was a little short. And then, of course, as you guys are talking about in chat, there's 2 more levels of things that are also relevant. Number 1, Chaos Tech and Forbidden Tech. Forbidden Tech, the Agony booth, because it's giving you Apex Barrier. It's also boosting your damage and your hull health, is a good one. The other one in here, the Quantum Slipstream. Boosts your crit chance, and more importantly, decreases their shield mitigation every round. Now, the highest anybody can really take this thing to is tier 11, and I think it can go up to 55 if you've got all of your Q trials done. And this is decreasing their shield mitigation every round cumulatively by 22%. So after round 5, their shields aren't stopping anything anymore. And we talked about at the beginning about how these things have massive shield health, right? Hundreds of billions of points of shield health. After round 5, you're just ignoring all of it. Realistically, by round 4, it's 88%. The shields aren't really stopping much of anything. So, but by round 5, it's pretty much guaranteed they're not doing anything anymore. Now, you got to obviously get that very high tiered, but even if you only get it to say, tier 10, and you're at level 45, that's the best you can do because your Q trials aren't far enough along, well, still 15% less per round. So by round 6, they're down to only 10%. It's 90% less effective. And by round 7, now it's the shields aren't doing anything. Obviously this one does take a while to source through the Augment store. And as you can see, I'm still 2 months away maybe from pulling it. So this is a bit, obviously I need to find a way to spend a little more time doing some kills there. Maybe if I tier my Reliant up a little bit, which hopefully I'll get to do on Thursday on ship day, maybe then it'll be able to take on the 62s and I can start sourcing epic materials better. And then I can pull this a little faster. And if we flip over to the Chaos Techs, well, you've got the Godsend here, which not only boosts weapon damage and Apex Barrier, but it also has Apex Shred, which is another relevant stat for some of these hostiles. The Chrono Deflector, if you don't have that one, also gives you a little bit of Apex Barrier and as well as some extra crit damage. And this one also does shield repair. So if you're using Janeway, and obviously you're taking more damage into the shields, or if you're using below deck, if you're using the Wrath of Khan Carol, because she does something similar, or perhaps you're using both of them, to really, depending on what tier your Carol is, you might have to double up on that one. Sometimes Seska shield repair isn't getting it done all by herself. So the Chrono Deflector here can also give you some of that shield repair to help keep your shields up. So now you're funneling all that damage and mitigating it away from what you're having to work on there. So depending on which one you need more of, depending on what type of hostiles you're fighting, and what crew you're using. And then other things that can be helpful. Artifacts. Artifacts are the other big differentiation, right? Because you've got obviously your shield health boosters and your hull health boosters out of the Alliance tournament store, your isolytic defense buffs. Lots of people know about those. But what about some of the other ones down here? Your Book of Coast Emotion, more hull health. This one's available in the Temporal Disruptor store, the Transigen Loop. A lot of those, once you unlock them, now they become Temporal Disruptors, so you can level them up and tier them up a lot faster. Obviously, Nero's Trident for boosting officer stats is always nice. Anything that boosts your isolytic damage and isolytic defense is always nice. And Benga's Storybook for more isolytic defense can help. The Strand of Krenim Hair, we talked about that one in the DTI store as well. This boosts your isolytic damage much more than the Borg Queen's Remains does, right? Remember when this came out, we were like, oh god, it's 5% more isolytic damage, 6% more. Like, that's huge. Meanwhile, now this one over here is 60% more isolytic damage. Okay. A little outdated, Borg Queen, but sure. And then some of the newer ones, you've got Anorax's Data Pad here, which is given additional Apex Barrier. That can help keep you alive longer. Your Ancient Vulcan Scroll is more isolytic damage. There's a lot of stuff in here. There's a lot of artifacts. They all do a lot of beneficial things. There's a couple more that... the ones down here at the bottom. The Classic Phaser, Giorgio's Sword, and the Vulcan Necklace also add additional Apex Barrier. So for that one V'ger daily where it's like mitigate, percentage damage, thankfully they just revised that one and did lower it. But even still, if you're struggling to fight these things, it could just be a matter of just getting more Apex Barrier. And, if you can't tier up Anorax because he's too expensive and you don't have the shards and stuff for him, maybe you can tier up these artifacts. Maybe you can get them unlocked. The Phaser, the Sword, and Sarek's Necklace, because those are sourceable, as long as we're talking about sourcing, in the Transigen store. If you come over here to the Epic artifacts, actually they're not epic, are they? They're rare. Yeah, they're all the way over here. They're in the rare bundle, so you don't even need to have the Squall if you haven't been doing that loop. And you can unlock them through these. Now, if you have the Squall, it can get faster, because occasionally when you refine with the Squall, you get these extra choice tokens. And these choice tokens you can also redeem, but instead of getting 1, you get 16, which is almost a half unlock. It's random whether or not you get one of the bonus tokens or not, but if you happen to hit one, that can make a big difference. And then those particular artifacts can be leveled up even faster, all through here, through the temporal restoration section here, using these temporal disruptors that hopefully you have a lot of. Because as you can see, right now they're not even in here at all. but we're going to demonstrate what should happen because I can unlock one of them right now. Actually, I can unlock two of them. I'm going to save the other ones for tomorrow for the Chronicles event, but we'll go ahead and we'll do this one. We'll do the Hull Breach one with the classic phaser. So that just gave me an extra 250 Apex barrier. And now that it's unlocked, I don't need to waste my time doing the slow drip through the Transigen refinery anymore. I should be able to come in here. Bam, there it is right there. Classic phaser, temporal disruptors. And we got our handy little slider. And because I've been acquiring so many temporal disruptors through Alliance tournaments for the last couple of months, because those are the tasks I just seem to keep getting. Well, right there was 150 I just grabbed real quick. Now I can come in here and I can upgrade my classic phaser. 300, 350, 400, 450. Bam. Now I've got increases Apex barrier while they have a hull breach. So I just got 500 more Apex barrier. That's going to help mitigate a little bit more damage and will help offset the fact that my Anorax is only tier 2. And if you do the same thing for the other techs as well, well then suddenly having officers below deck like Harry Kim and Neelix and Balana, well, you're always going to want Balana, but having Harry Kim and Neelix below deck now gets you an additional benefit. In addition to the burning, and in addition to, you know, the things that come along with having burning, and in addition to all of the wonderful, wrong one. It's this one. Nova Squadron researches that are lurking in here where you're getting extra mitigation and isolytic damage and all this other fun stuff. Or shield repair that you're getting from Harry Kim. Now you're getting Apex barrier on top of it too. So it's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts, and it's kind of how you have to attack these V'ger hostiles, which are a really good preparation for what you're going to experience if you're finishing up G6 and moving into G7. So there is that same drastic power jump, and that's kind of what they're preparing you for. If you're not ready to take on the 69s and the 70s with the V'ger hostiles, then you're not ready for 71 stuff in the Veil. So, all right. Any questions about any of that? I know I just threw a lot of information at everybody, but I kind of felt like I took the first week, wanted to sort of just evaluate these things, these hostiles. And so we have 3 different types of them. They all require slight little tweaking. The other officer I forgot to mention that's very helpful with the silent versions is Trip Tucker. Good old Trip Tucker. Because the silent hostiles do a lot of crit damage. Well, Trip Tucker's lowering their crit damage. Put here, 250%. So if your fight is going a long time, lowering their damage will certainly allow you to live a lot longer. If your fight is going really short and you're winning in like 6 or 7 rounds, but you're taking a lot of damage, you might also consider Phlox. Because I should just sort by group. Because Phlox's ability for the first 8 rounds basically makes them so that they don't hit you with criticals. There you go. Where's my NX01 group? We're not up this far. There they are. Phlox reduces the opponent's critical hit chance by up to 100%, depending on what tier you've gotten to, for the first 8 rounds. So if your fight's going a little shorter, but you're taking a lot of crit damage, especially against the silent versions, now they won't crit at all, and you'll just take regular damage. That can make you get, 4 or 5 extra kills per hull, maybe. If your fight's going 30 or 40 rounds, Phlox will save you some damage for the first 8, but you're probably better off using Trip Tucker because he's just gonna. You won't care so much about them hitting you with criticals because he's lowering the damage. So it's gonna be close to like a regular hit anyway. These things do have a floor on them. If they didn't have a crit damage floor, you'd actually be happy that they're critting because he can lower it all the way to 0. And it's like, oh good, they crit me, 0 damage. Oh good, they threw another critical, 0 damage. But I believe these things do have a crit floor, so it can't go below a certain percentage. So, is upgrading artifacts a part of Crucible? Yes. It is tomorrow's event, actually. It is the Wednesday event, so keep that in mind. 90% is the crit floor? Okay. Yep. Hollywood, good to see you. Run the slipstream doesn't really help. Well, I mean, it's more effective against different versions of these hostiles, right? But we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a spin. And we've done this a couple of times, but let's just grab Anorax group. We'll take Seska and Suitor, and then below deck, I need Pick Hue. There, and I need ISO defense there. So we're just going to take these guys out to start with. We're getting plenty of isolytic just in base. Abilities and bonuses from things that we were looking at before. All those artifacts, all those other things. But yes, the 69s are definitely a bit of a jump in the curve. The other thing I can recommend too, before you jump and go out there, throw your Titan buff. You got a daily to do, right? You have to buff a ship once. Let's throw that out there. And heck it, just because we can, because you get to do multiples of these per day for free, throw a Cerritos buff on it too. I know we don't like using this as like the standard, and when I go back the second time, I won't, and you'll see the drastic difference in how these things work, because you should want to be able to beat them unbuffed and kind of set that as the benchmark, because you don't want to have to rely on being buffed all the time to kill these things. And trust me, I'll probably only get 3 or 4, even with the buffs. But when we go back the second time unbuffed, maybe I'll get 2. Obviously, if I used a max fort, I'd get further, but okay, so this will put a huge head start. I only lost a little sliver there. We'll look at battle logs in a second while I'm repairing and flying back and stuff. If we can get at least 4, that's a good start. Crit floor is also wrong. Their floor is 30%, but it says 90%. Isolytic defense. Interesting. Well, we got 4 of them dead. That's what I was hoping for. That would give me a nice little head start here. And we're doing plenty of isolytic. We almost got that one dead too. Alright, so while we're repairing for a second, let's just take a look at one of these battle logs. These are the Gorn version, so they have obviously more isolytic that they're doing. They're doing isolytic damage, which is what it gets a boost from. Very low crit chance, right? 1%. So not worried about criticals on this build, so someone like Trip Tucker or Phlox wouldn't be necessary because their base crit chance is only 1%. And nothing in here worries about that. Now here's something else with their ability. It lowers their shield, my shield mitigation at the start of each round. Does it tell you how much it's lowering it? Doesn't appear to. I guess I'd have to reverse engineer the math to see how much it's changing. But this fight went 27 rounds. You can look at all these buffs and bonuses applying. So obviously we're hitting Hull Breach, Morale, and Burning. Thesco's restoring 20% of my shields. I'm also kicking in some Apex Barrier from the Agony booth. And some damage bonuses. The Godsend's also kicking in some Apex Shred. These things, as you can see, do have Apex Barrier. So try and prevent some of my, obviously the base damage on the Gorn all gets mitigated. Only Isolytic actually hurts them. I hit them for 11 billion Isolytic. It mitigated 10 billion of it. And then the barrier sucked up the other 700k or 700 million there. So there's only about a billion left, right? 11.7. Well, there's 10.7 just gone right off the bat. So basically, I'm only doing about 11 or 12% of my damage is actually making it through. And then it hits the shields, and half of it went to the shields, and the other half here went to the hull. And we see it come down with a second shot, and we look at it and see it again and again and again. Now, obviously, the more crits I can throw out, the more hull damage I can do, but as we looked at the beginning, these things have like 400 billion hull health. So getting, you know, a billion per shot through, it's still 400 times I have to hit it. Like, that's just going to take a while, unless we can get rid of the shields. And that's where the slipstream would come into effect. It would basically double up the damage, because that's what their shield is being mitigated there. Absorbing basically half, close to half every time. All right. And just for science, because I noticed this and I want to do the math here. What's my shield mitigation there? So 1137,640 plus 13469. I gotta open two calculators. So what did the shield mitigate? 113,640 divided by 34699,572. 84% is where we were in round one. Let's go to round two. And let's see how much of a difference it made, if any. So over here, my total is 270. And the shields, %83. So looks like he's lowering it about 1% per round. So the longer the fight goes, the less is getting absorbed by shields. And if we jump ahead, we down to the end and see where we're at. You know, by like round, at that rate, by round 24, I should be down to about 60%, if that tracks. So let's go down here and just see what we're talking about in terms of damage being mitigated. Yeah, you can see obviously we're taking more. We need the second calculator back. $261. 1.2296 divided by 1. 58.5%. So yeah, it's about 1% per round that these Gorn things are blocking your shield mitigation. So the longer the fight goes, the worse it is. And having, you know, an officer like Seska, who's restoring my shield health, will become less important because I'm not losing shield health anymore because he's bypassing my damage. But if I'm making a change, and say we do Janeway as captain, giving up the apex barrier, so I should take more damage that way. But I am doing more shield mitigation. And again, I'm not buffed for this, so it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison here. The Cerritos also does shield regeneration, and the Titan buffs. I know the shield one. The Cerritos one I think is still broken, but I feel like it still helps. Yeah, see, obviously we took a lot more damage there, but the fight, not being buffed, the fight went 42 rounds. Now, Janeway obviously is going to help with my shield mitigation by putting more of it into the shields. And as you can see here, even with Seska doing some restoration and the other artifacts that we talked about, I still lost about half my shield health here. And if you had an officer like Carol Marcus below deck who also helps with that, that can make a difference too. If I were really smart, I would look for the one that was damaged already before I did this. And only because for science, so we can compare apples to apples. Here's the unbuffed version with that same crew. Gumby, good to see you. Welcome on in. The beauty of being able to jump right back is you can find your damaged friends and kill them as well, before somebody else takes the fruit of your labor. Unfortunately for a lot of us, this is still 3 to 4 hulls to get the 10 kills needed, but at least we've lowered the bar on the secondary objectives. Yeah, see? Now this is the unbuffed against the whole one here. Just barely didn't get it, but I was already half dead. And that fight went 52 rounds. And we can look at the other setup here real quick too. And we can grab Chang. Obviously having additional lower deck slots would be helpful. If my guys were higher tiers, you know, having Savick more isolated cascade damage would certainly do more, you know, end these fights faster. You know, if I had room for Carol, she's again mitigating more below deck. These are officers that are very helpful. Even Scotty here, I believe, reduces their shield mitigation. If he was a higher tier, you'd see a better result because these things have such high shield mitigation. He's effectively doing what the quantum slipstream is. Except the quantum slipstream is cumulative, so it's adding progressively. He's just sort of taking a start off it. If you don't have the quantum slipstream yet, you can try Scotty below deck. But again, you know, how high is he tiered will make a difference. Bugs, good to see you. Fight, welcome on in. Yeah, and there's definitely, you know, the 50s don't have as much trouble with this stuff. And even the lower 60s are kind of doing okay. My other account is op 63. I cruise through this daily with my Enterprise D, one hull, typically get 5 to 6 kills, finish the one daily, and then might have to come back a second trip to get the 10 kills I need to finish up the other daily. The only thing holding me back from going to 64 is that because I don't have the quantum slipstream, I don't have the warp range to take the Enterprise D to the level 64 system. It's 1200 warp range, and I'm capped out at 1184. I might be able to do with the Orion Syndicate bomb thing, so that might be another thing to look at too. But that account will keep progressing and moving up. Rogue Teddies, is the Ferengi store a monthly thing? Pretty much. That is pretty much a monthly thing now. We don't have those big end-of-arc event stores anymore that we used to have. They have replaced them with the shorter Ferengi stores that launch in the mid-month patch. And that's kind of your catch-up mechanic. The big 3-arc, 4-arc, 4-month arc, and then here's a big store with like 75 to 100 things. Those have kind of been replaced over the last year with the Ferengi store now. And man, your 64 you can just reach. Do you have the slipstream? Or one of the other techs, because maybe that's why. And for science purposes, this was Chang, right? That guy was already dead, so that doesn't count. Where's the first guy? Yeah, so we were on a fresh hull there. And that fight went 55 rounds. And I took 3/4 of my hull health and damage there, so. Relativity is getting you there at 64. Okay. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my Kirk is only 14 out of 15. Maybe I didn't finish upgrading him to get that final level. So there's the current situation. Obviously, this will continue to evolve as we get new officers, new artifacts, as people start to unlock their Excelsior and start that whole loop. All of this will get easier as time goes on. So if you're struggling today and those events don't feel like they're worth it for you, not worth your time, can you get the easier one done? Can you killed 1 or 2 hostiles, but you finished the other one? Then fine, just get that done. If you can't, it's not worth your time. You're getting 1 hostile per kill, and you don't feel like coming back and dying and blowing up 9 or 10 times to get this one, then skip that one. Do these, take your 100 points, take your challenge credits. It will get you some progress for now. A couple 100 points on your challenge track, 7 days in the week, right? Get you the first 2 milestones. There's a couple extra 100 challenge credits. There's a couple of Uhura shards. And just be happy with that for now. And as you continue to grow and evolve, and as the game power creeps beyond this over the next few months, this stuff will get easier. And you can come back to it later. You'll level up, your ships and bases and research will all level up. And maybe today, this just isn't the loop for you. Or maybe you're doing really great now, and then you level up and suddenly realize, oh, I can't kill these things anymore. Ah, crap, why did I do that? Well, put a pin in it. You can come back to it later. So